Hi everyone, welcome to another session of Between Sessions. Today I am joined with Michael Coggin here in Birmingham, Alabama. Michael is the founder of Karis Counseling here, and he's also the author of the recent book, Ravenous Wolves, where he really digs into exploring things around narcissistic abuse in our culture today. Michael, you've done a lot of research and work around narcissism. I'd love, just as an opening question, for you to give a definition or a little bit of language around what is narcissism and what is narcissistic abuse.
There's a lot of great definitions I really appreciate. This one has always stood out to me from The Culture of Narcissism, a book written by Christopher Lasch in 1979, where he described and defined narcissism as a longing to be free of longing. I think in so many ways that really kind of gets at the heart of not only narcissism, but also narcissistic personality disorder, which in a lot of ways can be two different things and provide a lot of confusion. The DSM-5 really kind of breaks down just different traits. You have to have 5 of the 9. Usually around envy of others, lack of empathy, high grandiose self-importance, and a lot of other traits where narcissism is different, where that is more kind of a collection of patterns, where narcissistic personality disorder really is a mental health disorder, and research shows that tends to be around 1 to 3% of the population have narcissistic personality disorder. The reality for someone who truly has NPD, they tend to not think they have it, so they don't go to therapy and don't get diagnosed. So we really don't have a lot of meaningful, I would say, statistics and research on the actual percentage of people in the culture that have narcissistic personality disorder. But narcissism is much more endemic, longing to be free of longing, almost this kind of core desire to be superhuman in a lot of ways, and instead of self-love, which I think we get confused by the narcissist myth that comes from ancient Greece, I would say that there's actually an absence of self-love, and at the heart of both someone with narcissism and NPD is just a deep insecurity and a lack of love of self.
So in the U.S. today, it seems like there's almost a trend of more and more people talking about narcissism, trying to label someone as a narcissist. Why do you think it's become such a popular conversation today? And what do you think it is about our culture that leads people to flock to narcissistic type leaders?
This stirs up a lot of controversy, and I write about this, but I really believe in a lot of ways just there's seeds of narcissism and insecurity are in all of our hearts. I think for a lot of reasons that whether it's predisposition, also just childhood trauma, those seeds can grow into something that is much more devastating personally for the person who's narcissist, but also those that they're in a relationship with. So I think the reason why this is really kind of blown up as far as the conversation in so many ways is because just the devastation that these institutions, communities, but also individuals cause. Yes, it is something that is part of the ongoing conversation culturally, but in my practice, but also just personally and in conversation with a lot of people, I think I would be hard pressed to find someone who hasn't been touched in some way by pathological narcissism. I think, especially in the United States, we really value, I refer to it as a AAA in our leaders and leadership, and that's leaders that have achievement, attractiveness, and articulation. In so many ways, we celebrate charisma over character. We our flock, or kind of move towards power over the individual person, and just how devastating that is, just to institutions, to individuals, to families. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but we see in the research that narcissists tend to be celebrated and do better, not only financially, but are more quick to become CEOs in businesses, whereas those who have traits of like kindness or who are agreeable tend to make less money, tend to not get promoted, and so have a lot of research is coming out that in some ways the nice guys sometimes do finish last, and we really are drawn towards those who are more arrogant. We see this in families, we see this in politicians, we see this in coaches.
If you find yourself around a narcissistic leader, which in some ways feels almost inevitable, how do you encourage clients or just people in general to engage that situation, whether it's stepping away or finding an outlet for them to be in a space where abuse is not inevitable, where they can actually get into a space of safety or a space where they can heal from abuse that's already taken place?
We want to encourage that person just the importance of counseling and mental health services to provide ongoing support. I think one of the realities of being in a relationship with someone like that, in a lot of ways, there's a gravitational pull to that particular individual, and just the reality of gaslighting and crazy making, where we do have research where people's the way they see themselves, the way they see situations is radically impacted by that type of individual. And so the need for other voices, whether that's a therapist, but also people outside of the system to speak truth in that person's life, to be walking with them, to communicate that they're not alone, to communicate that they're not crazy. In a lot of ways, it's very similar to someone coming out of a cult and having to be deprogrammed. A lot of connections between narcissism and narcissistic leaders in totalitarian states. And I think one of the aspects of that where I see a real parallel is just how dehumanizing those nations can be, or those cultures, or those kind of governments, and how dehumanizing those kind of work environments can be, where power is removed from the individual, the person's voice is slowly removed. And so just that long process of walking away from that type of individual, that type of system, and regaining their voice, regaining their humanity, moving away from being harvested for their competency or their giftedness, and maybe abused and made to feel like that they don't measure up or they have nothing to offer, but yet used by the narcissist for whatever they can give them. And so really growing in fuller humanity and what it means to be human, finding through therapy, through safer communities, their voice and who they are as human beings.
Michael, thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed getting to hear from you. This has been another great episode of Between Sessions. Join us next time.